Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dying Time is here. That's right, this is a Patreon exclusive. We're talking The Visitor 1979 on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton coming to you once again from Atlanta, the home of Coca-Cola. That's why I have a 7-Up lamp in my kitchen. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, that is the characters. And I'd love to say this film is chock full of them. I remain unconvinced, but here to help me make that decision is the only person that I trust, that when I'm trapped in a rolled over car that is wrapped in a chain link fence, that she will come to my rescue wielding a bat, the one and only Gina Radcliffe. How you doing, Gina?
Hello, Patrick. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. This is a very special Patreon episode. Why don't you tell our audience why?
This is the first of the highest tier prize that we offer, which is for $10 donors. Every quarter, they get to choose a movie for us. We randomly choose one to pick a movie for us, and the winner, air quotes, if you want to say, of this quarter's tier is Megan Dooley, and she chose The Visitor. I don't know if that's because she loves us or hates us.
This might be some sort of long-winded revenge plot. I love Megan as I do. This was the second time I've watched this movie. The first time I was high off of my gourd. The second time I was stone cold sober. And both times it didn't make a lick of fucking sense. So there's something about this movie. It confounds both the inebriated and uninebriated mind.
No, it feels like it was edited with a Cuisinart. They just drop several hours of film footage into a blender and press frappe.
I agree with that 1000%. In fact, at one point I became convinced that John Huston, who plays a major role in this motion picture.
The cast in this is nuts.
It's crazy. I don't know.
It's a lot of people who are being blackmailed for something.
A lot of people owed money to the mob, or they bet on the wrong team in the Super Bowl or something, because they all show up to slum it. And I do mean slum it in the most nonsensical film I have ever watched. And I've watched 4/5 of Neil Breen's Over. I was perusing when I just randomly Googled it to get a cast list. And one of the articles that came up was from Vice. And like the main line was like, it was like the entire 1970s were put into one film.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing about it is the repeated use of what I call a Starsky and Hutch stinger, which does not go at all in a movie that seems to be about like The Omen if it was like a space devil instead of the actual devil.
I'm half convinced that they basically said, hey, we rip off movies. Why don't we rip off like Rosemary's Baby and a little bit of The Omen and Star Wars and The Birds and
Enter the Dragon.
Network and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh? Sure. And put it all in one movie. It's so fucking crazy. That stinger, which I don't have and I could not find audio of, otherwise I would actually go out of my way to put it into this episode. It does sound like something out of a blaxploitation movie, and it happens in the movie, I swear to God, 12, 13 times. But
it's just the most random moments too. Like it'll just cut away to the Atlanta skyline. It'll show like John Hughes walking to like a rooftop, and just this explosion of like, you expect to just see like, a Dodge Charger just flying over the rooftop with this dramatic music.
My very favorite part of that little music sting is that it sort of ends almost like the 2001 music. But then it doubles up on it like, oh, they can't sue us now. Ba-da! Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. You're like, wait a second. Are you trying to allude that this is some sort of Star Baby level discovery that I'm watching a guy get out of his very large Lincoln and he's not wearing a seatbelt? No one in this movie wears seatbelts ever.
Do we even want to try to take a stab at what this movie's about?
I mean, I wrote notes as it occurred. I think there's just, at a certain point, I stopped.
I have some notes, but they look almost kind of runic in nature. Like I'm looking back at them now and I'm like, what was I talking about here?
The thing is, the movie in and of itself makes no sense. It starts with John Huston for what feels like a half an hour, staring at something, and then slowly but surely it starts to snow, and then a small child is revealed who looks like she did that Mrs. Doubtfire thing of putting her whole face in a cake to disguise herself.
This is not the first time that you could tell they shot a scene after they were unable to get this child actor back. It's also much more obvious at the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of like far away shots of her at various points. It's just people in other three-way ponytails, which is a very odd look amongst the many that they give her. Her birthday party just, whole accoutrement is crazy. There's braids, there's sections of hair. She's wearing what appears to be a blue nightgown.
She's got like some Bo Derek cornrows on one side.
It's
and you said there's
topical.
another 70s reference there.
Yeah, it's like she went to the islands. She's the secretary in your office who went to the islands and came back with braids. Otherwise, you would never know. And this begins a theme throughout the movie of John Huston just looking bewildered somewhere off camera. They must have just taken hours of footage of this and said, you know what? We can edit this into the movie whenever we need it. And the thing is, the movie never needs it. And yet there it is all the time. Him just looking off camera. His facial expressions never change.
Now, sometimes he looks a little surprised. Other times he just looks confused, which are really kind of similar expressions. So it's not that much of a strain for him.
Or he's surprised that he's confused, or he's confused as to why he's surprised. But it's kind of the same all the way through. This leads us into a sequence in which Franco Nero appears to be playing Space Jesus and explaining in exhausting detail the supposed backstory of our fight between the cosmic good and cosmic evil. I don't understand why they said, hey, we're gonna, like, if we're going to rip off The Omen, we've got to make it a little bit different. And then someone said, oh, what if we made it needlessly complicated? Oh, perfect.
Well, the funny thing is they're acting as if the concept of God and Satan are copywritten. So it's not the evil force that they're confronting isn't Satan, it's Satine. Now,
with a Z, Zatine.
Yeah, which is a fabric. That's
right.
It's they never mention God or the devil or anything at any point, but this is obviously who these characters are supposed to represent. But they're like dancing around this like they're afraid of copyright infringement.
It's like the Vatican might come after them if they say the wrong thing.
A cease and desist letter. Don't mention the devil in your movie by name.
It's proprietary. That's someone else's IP. You just can't use that. It's like just dumping Mickey Mouse into whatever you're doing. And this brings about, a sequence in which a bunch of bored, shaved children watch Franco Nero stumble through these lines written on cue cards just off camera. And it also illustrates something that's perfect for this film. If you have this tale of an incredible space battle between these cosmic gods, it's much better to have Franco Nero tell you about it than show you.
Of course.
That makes the most sense.
And he's such a gripping, engaging storyteller too. I mean, I really, really just felt and saw everything he was talking about.
I mean, he just talks and talks and talks and talks. Meanwhile, John Huston wanders in and looks into this God's conference room and just wanders in, and everyone crowds around him like, oh, yay, John Huston is here. He can't be bothered. He walks around this entire movie like he's wearing a hernia truss. It's like Frankenstein after back surgery, and sits down and goes, oh boy, there's another one. And Frank goes like, what? What? Another what? And this time her name is Katie so-and-so. And then in kicks the ba 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 ba.
It's like tonight on Kojak.
Oh man, listen, that's what this fucking movie needed, was Kojak in the middle of it. And oddly enough, it attempts to do that a little bit later on with the introduction of a cop character played by John Glenn in his
no, Glenn Ford, not John.
Glenn Ford, excuse me. Glenn Ford in the place in his career where I think he would only accept a role if it paid something, or at least gave you recyclables that you could trade in for cash.
You got those McDonald's coupons.
At one point he tells a captain, I think, I don't know, because this guy's just in an art room at the local college.
He's just go ahead with what he was saying, because I could barely hear half of what he said. He's just like muttering his lines like he could give a shit. Yeah, they don't mic things particularly well if they captured the audio live. But he goes, I don't know, man. You're like, who told you the expression man? It's like he's definitely playing a character probably about 20 years younger than Glenn Ford. Yes. I mean, it's even odder than his Coke medallions in Happy Birthday to Me. Just whatever his trip was at the time, it was real weird. But we slam cut from this sequence in the godly conference room to an ABA basketball game. And this is the Omni in Atlanta. And I guess they captured a lot of this during a real game, because there's a lot of people in the stands. It looks like a real basketball game, and it goes on like a basketball game for a while. That's right. If you're a fan of Distaff, like not quite March Madness, whatever the bottom 64 college games are called, that's what this is. And at one point, the camera person apes like the basketball's point of view. And I really wondered if they knew what basketball was at all. Everyone is happy about this basketball game except for Lance Henriksen, who glowers constantly. Lance Henriksen, he essentially is playing almost the same role he played in Damien Omen 2. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. He is basically the sort of, designated protector of whatever this. I mean, like, again, it's not the devil. We really have to make sure to emphasize that this is not the devil we're talking about here. No, it's another child possessed with a different sort of otherworldly being. He's nonplussed watching this basketball game. Meanwhile, the two women who we don't know who they are at this point in the movie are freaking the fuck out at everything that happens. And it just goes on and on and on. Meanwhile, into this, not to them directly, but at a different part of the basketball court, in walks Katie, our let me stop protagonist villain. Let me stop you right there. Sure. I had no idea until I looked up this movie later that this is supposed to be her, because she's wearing I hate to say, I feel safe in saying that this actor, she's supposed to be playing a character who's just turning 8. She doesn't look 8. No, I don't know where I'm not saying she looks like 20, but she looks like she's 12 or 13 years of age. The way that this character is treated is so weird and uncomfortable, and like she's got like this like kind of 70s disco diva hair and like this, like she looks like she's got a big Jodie Foster and Taxi Driver sunglasses on.
Yes.
She's snapping gum and making eyes at like the basketball players. I'm like, I had no idea who that character was.
I mean,
and then I
to
realized
be fair
later
to that basketball player, if you saw a tween sitting underneath the basket in sunglasses the size of a normal person's face, you too would go, the fuck is happening over here? There's an unaccompanied minor just hanging out over here. Can someone do something about it? Meanwhile, she looks and is introduced at the same level of like a villain in season 4 of Dynasty. You know right away she's no good.
Yeah, the one thing I really admire about this movie is as opposed to other, demonically possessed children movies, is they don't bother trying to shock the audience by making this kid start out sweet and then like reveal her evil side. And she is a rotten turd from the minute she appears on screen. I mean, she's cussing and smirking and giving all kinds of menacing stares. And I really had to, I actually had a moment where I did go hit the 10 seconds back button because we're jumping way ahead, but her mother ends up paralyzed, which in a scene that is unbelievable.
Yes.
The scene is like, I thought my brain had melted. I could not have possibly have seen that. But anyway, later in the movie, she goes home and she sees the maid who is played by Shelley Winters.
Yes.
Also paying back a gambling debt. And she starts like screaming about wondering where her mother is. And she says, "Where's my whipping boy?" And
Yes.
I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, I don't like when movies, any kind of movies, sexualize like or adulterize, I guess, child characters to show that they're, not like. Do you remember the movie Orphan?
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, she was supposed to be like 35 years old or something.
Spoiler alert for Orphan, but she's supposed to be
she's
a 35.
She's like 35 who looks 10 for some reason, but she's still played by a child actor.
Yeah.
And she just hits on Peter Sarsgaard's character, and yeah, to his credit, he's like freaking the fuck out over this.
Yes.
But it's really unpleasant. And I mean, it's obviously it's supposed to be, but it's like, yeah, no, please don't do this. And there's another scene in the movie where she has a vested interest in her mother getting laid. and that is because apparently like Payman in Hereditary, like this being Satine needs a male body as a host, whatever, sexism and all that. But
well, come on. Let's get real here. You need a male body. Come on.
So like she's trying to hook up her mother with Lance Henriksen's character. And there's a point later in the movie where, the mother and Lance Henriksen get into a fight and he calls her and the daughter gets into bed with her and starts spooning her and nuzzling her. And I'm like, I'm like, this is not how a mother and child like cuddle each other. I mean, that's a very intimate thing where you're like spooning someone while they're talking on the phone and like, kissy kissy, hurry up and get off the phone, wink wink.
Let me talk to your boyfriend. Hey, wouldn't it be great if you were over here and then we wouldn't be alone and you could make love to my mother? Like, what? And then Barbara, the mom's like, that's inappropriate. And Katie's like, no, it isn't. Yeah, it is. You freak. It's inappropriate. It's all weird. You're supposed to be 8, just turned 8. There's no way this is happening.
Well, as part of the the whole thing with the movie feeling like it was edited with a cheese grater is that the kid starts out bad. Apparently, like there's like a whole scene where her mother and Lance Henriksen are in bed near the beginning of the movie. They've got
fucking under a fur blanket, I might add.
And she's talking about, there's something wrong with Katie. And it's like, well, okay, we're just going to jump right into this. All right.
There's something wrong with her. And then like 20 minutes later, she's asking Shelley Winters, what do you think of Katie? And Katie goes, she's fucking evil. And She's like, what? Are
What?
you kidding me? I've never heard such a thing. You said the exact same thing to Lance Henriksen when you were fucking underneath a 101 Dalmatians blanket. Why is it different now?
Like I said, it's okay that we're jumping around because how we're explaining this does not make the movie any more incomprehensible.
No, it really is one of those things you almost have to see to believe, because you would never, but I also wouldn't recommend it. It's, I mean, there are moments in it which are crazy, but I hesitate to say that it's worth the journey.
I mean,
For example, if we go back to the basketball game for a second, at one point, Lance Henriksen, we're told, is the new owner of Atlanta's basketball team, which is whatever it was before it was the Hawks. And he's being interviewed by the play-by-play announcer over his shoulder. And he grills him like he's running for president. Like, hey, where'd you get the money to buy this basketball team? Huh? Where'd you get this money? Come on, tell me where you got the money. And he goes, God. And they leave it there.
yeah, the movie seems to suggest that he has sold his soul to the devil in order to have a winning basketball team.
This is a crazy, like, out of all the things in the world to sell your soul for, would it be to have a winning ABA basketball team? This is not that seems very low bar for, here's what I'll do to take my soul down to the crossroads and make a deal with old Scratch for. I'm sorry, we're not allowed to call him that. Old Scritch? Elderly Scritch?
Old teen.
Old teen.
Just like Katie.
At one point we were messaging back and forth earlier while you were watching it, and I described Katie as Lindsey Graham in tween form.
Oh, she's got this accent that is just like, it goes from like designing women genteel to like dog patch trash. Like there's a one point where she's just verbally abusing Glenn Ford's character. You could barely understand that drawl is so thick you can barely understand her.
Why are you doing here? I'm worried about you.
Why don't y'all go fuck yourself? It's like nobody else in this movie has an accent. I mean, yeah, I get that it's supposed to take place in Atlanta, but I mean, I don't know where they got this kid from. I mean, it's like
out of the Okefenokee swamp.
Yeah, I mean, she's just got this accent that is in fucking sane.
Oh, you want to talk about insane accents? Let's talk about the backstory of John Glenn's character. He wanders into the reality part of this movie in the Atlanta airport, and he checks in with the Polish passport, and the very dubbed person who asks him, is this your first time in America? And he goes, yes, it's my first time visiting America. Like, well, you sound like a Kansas dirt farmer. You don't sound Polish. What is the point of you being Polish? It would set off every alarm in your head. Why does this Polish national sound like he was born and raised in Colorado?
But we have to talk about this birthday party scene though, because
okay.
Is it supposed to be her aunt? I guess they mentioned later that it was her aunt, and
yeah, I don't know if it's an official aunt or like a kind of aunt.
The kid's like apparently obsessed with birds, and so like a lot of their house has like bird decor, and she has, is it a hawk? Just flying around the house uncaged.
Yes,
pet hawk. The kid's got a pet hawk.
And no one thinks this will ever go bad. And no one comments on it. Like, you have a live fucking predator bird in your house. And no one goes, hey, that's weird.
You will become intimately acquainted with this hawk, believe me. The amount of times that we see or hear this hawk suggests that is where much of the budget went towards. Yeah. So the aunt buys her this hideous bird sculpture that literally says, "I'm a pretty bird," like over and over again. It is
the most digitized. Like you would never ever purchase this ever for anyone that you liked.
It's like a bejeweled bird. It looks like
I'm a
something.
pretty bird.
It looks like
Bird,
something you would
bird.
find in your great grandmother's things after she has passed away, where you argue about who's going to take this fucking bird, and then
We
you
can't
start,
just donate it. That's cruel.
and then you start passing it back and forth to each other as a gag Christmas gift. Oh shit, I get the bird this year. Fuck. Well, I suppose we could put it in the bathroom. But anyway,
And she has
so-
this habit of wiping off everyone's kisses.
oh, I love that's actually I kind of appreciated that. That was a nice gag. I thought that was pretty funny. So through some infernal magic, it's never really quite explained, that she
Yeah.
unwraps the package that's supposed to have the bird in it, and it has a gun. And she pulls the gun out and says, "Look, mommy." Nobody reacts. They're just like, "Oh, she's got a..." No, they don't say, "Oh, she's got a gun." They just sort of stand there. She throws the gun, which goes off and hits the mother in the back. And she just, and then Katie, the kid, just kind of gives this shrug. It's the funniest reaction. Like, who among us has not accidentally shot their mother at some point?
I mean, she really gives an SpaghettiOs look.
She's just like, "Oops."
Wasn't my fault.
And everybody is just sort of standing around like, "Okay, when's the next scene? Are you in the next scene? Do you have lines for the next scene? I don't know. We're just waiting for this gunshot effect to go off." "Oh, okay." "Oh, wait, we're filming?" "Shit." And so the very next scene, the mother is paralyzed from the waist down, and she's kind of okay with it. I mean, we
Everyone's okay with this.
we
It's-
don't get any sort of, as you would expect to see in any kind of movie where a character is abruptly paralyzed, let alone from an accident where their own kid shoots them. I mean, I think of a movie like The Garden State, where you find out that he's like emotionally stunted and depressed because his mother fell over a dishwasher and broke her back or something like that. Just the pain of a lifetime of guilt over injuring your parent, is the main thing that pulls this movie along. And in this movie, nobody fucking cares.
It's like she broke a leg skiing.
Yeah,
It's like, what are you gonna
she's
do?
She's just like happily chugging along in her wheelchair, and it's just like, she's got her Mrs. Deagle, electric stare thingy, and she's totally cool with this. 35 years old and paralyzed from the waist down for life. She's cool. Hey, shit happens. The accident is never addressed except by Glenn Ford's character, which is odd to me that this is being investigated. I mean, I could see that she had gotten killed, but it wasn't. It was an accident that was kind of like designed, I guess. But what is he supposed to be investigating?
Well, he says at one point, because the captain who's in your art room is saying, "What are you gonna, at some point we're gonna have to drop this case because it's just an accident." And he goes, "Yeah, the gunshot was an accident because she threw the gun. But who put the gun in the present is what I'm investigating." And everyone's like, "Pfft." I mean, guns end up in wrapped presents at 8-year-old birthday parties. What are you gonna do? It's Atlanta. Like,
It's just this scene, just everything you need to know about how weird this movie is, and just the pacing and the tone and the editing. Just watch this scene, because it's just filled with human beings reacting to things in a way that no normal human being would react to. They said, I just, again, the nobody in this party even blinks an eye when she just pulls out this gun out of a present.
I mean, it's even, you don't get a lot of time to really ruminate on it, because the next 5 minutes are made up of a montage of Katie warming up and performing gymnastics, cut together with surgery and x-rays of Barbara and her back. And I'm like, what? Is this supposed to be like motivation for Katie? Like, oh, now Katie can become part of the Olympic team because her mom's paralyzed. What movie are we in? Why is this happening? Why are these two events being conflated?
And then so like her her gymnastics teacher asks her, it's like, how's your mother doing? Oh, she's not like she died or anything.
I mean, big fucking deal. She's in a wheelchair for the rest of her life.
And again,
Meanwhile, how am I doing on the on parallel bars?
and again, this gymnastic teacher doesn't blink an eye. Oh, well, good. I'm glad she didn't die or anything.
I mean, the worst things that can happen. Anyway, see you back here on Thursday. So, believe it or not, we're only 30 minutes into this movie. It feels like an eternity.
Well, there's a lot. There is a lot of padding in this movie. There's like the scene that you mentioned at the beginning where John Huston appears to be staring at this sort of intergalactic landing strip.
Yeah.
And watches these sort of like orbs come down from the sky. It all looks very much like a prog rock album, and and that
given the breath of life. Yeah,
there's a lot of there's really only there's what two deaths in this. I mean, we don't really know.
Yeah, there's barely anything.
We really don't know. We don't know what happened to the two people at the ice skating rink, which we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Because that scene is
a whole thing.
That scene is NUTZ nuts.
Yeah, I mean, John Huston climbs up on a rooftop somewhere in Atlanta and it appears to direct a performance art piece in which a bunch of bald guys do modern movement behind a screen.
And still set to that music. That's the Starsky and Hutch theme.
Meanwhile, Glenn Ford is, somehow trying to investigate this crime in which he keeps going to the house and looking in, or just walking. People just walk into Barbara's house like it ain't no big deal.
And then there's a scene which he attempts to talk to Katie, and he talks to her in a way that suggests he's never spoken to a child in his life before, or
has no idea what the script is,
and it comes off as very creepy because he's like, "Well, why don't I just wait around for you?" It's like, no, you don't say. You, an adult man, do not say to a child, "Why don't I just wait around for you until you're done school?"
But that
scene is great because she's just like, she's cursing like George Carlin at this bewildered middle-aged man.
And he's like, "So where did that mechanical bird go?" And she's like, "I'll tell you what, if you lean in real close, I'll tell you, it's in your ass." And then she runs back into the school, which looks like the clock tower from Back to the Future.
Well, what I really love is right after she says that, you could hear kids about going, "Katie, Katie," like this was like a Your Mama contest that she
they're all listening in. She's got them on mic, and they all have earpieces in Video Village. They're like, "Yeah, this is." Like it's one of those insult shows.
No, nobody acts like real people in this. So, I mean, the weird thing is at no point is she ever seen interacting with other children. Like there are kids at her party, but there's no, like, a lot of these scenes where, a lot of evil kid movies, there's always a scene in which they encounter another kid. Sometimes it's a bully, or sometimes it's a kid they're picking on that, the other kid always ends up getting killed or horrendously injured or something. There's nothing like that in this. She gets every scene that she has is with adults, and it's very weird.
It's super, super odd. She doesn't interact with them. I'll tell you someone she does interact. The person who wanders into this movie in head to toe Mary Poppins.
I wrote down she looks like Mary Poppins.
Is Shelley fucking Winters, who gives the craziest goddamn performance. It's just out of another movie.
She walks under the stairs and
she walks around like she's got a secret, like she's investigating.
She's got like dead stuffed birds in a bamboo bird cage, but
and that make her feel better.
She walks under the stairs, and the stair lift starts coming down. She's like, "Oh, what's that?" She's terrified at this electric chairlift.
I mean, you wandered into this house. Announce yourself, for Christ's sakes.
She's the best character in the whole movie. Let's just say it.
She is by default.
Shockingly makes it to the end of the movie, which does not make sense because she seems to be the only one that is on to Katie and tells her. Which you would think that, she'd be getting, the whole, you spike through the head trick or stuck under the ice thing, or some Damien shit, but no, she's fine. By the end of the movie, she's still around. She goes back to, she's like Space Nanny or something.
Yeah, she's in on it somehow. Like she's intimately familiar with how this works and everything.
Yeah, she straight tells Katie, "I know what you are." Katie just kind of glowers at her, but that's it. It's like you caused another character to get his eyes pecked out by your pet hawk. I mean, you're just gonna let this one go.
Yeah, this is what I thought the movie might be, because at this point in the movie, Glenn Ford is driving around Atlanta in the largest car ever manufactured on Earth. He's the size of 14 cars.
He's found to be Jeweled Bird. And like any normal person, he is extremely put off by the bird repeating, "I am a pretty bird."
Like, oh, I'd replace it with a gun too. This is a terrible present.
Like sweat is like beating on his forehead while he's looking at this thing.
Oh my God, I gotta get this fucking thing out of my car. But he never gets a chance because he's then attacked by Katie's hawk forever.
Yeah.
And he proceeds to drive all over Atlanta, causing all sorts of injuries, including once, I don't know if it's a stunt guy or a dummy on a motorcycle, who hits his head at such an odd angle that person would never walk again. I hope to God that was a dummy on that motorcycle bouncing off his windshield, because my anus instantly clenched. That is not a good angle to hit an oncoming vehicle at. He eventually gets both eyes torn out.
Imagine being a stuntman and becoming quadriplegic while working on The Visitor.
The Visitor in 1979.
It's like, do you remember, and again, really dating ourselves as old people here, but do you remember the stuntman Dar Robinson?
Oh, of course, yes. The greatest stuntman in the world. I was obsessed with him.
Do you know what movie he died on the set of?
Oh, it was something terrible.
$1 Million Mystery.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine that being his legacy? It's like John Candy and Wagons East being his final movie. It's just like, that's just insult to injury. Anywho, let's return to The Visitor.
Yes. That reminds me, I have Hooper on my DVR. So
what are you doing talking to me then? Jesus.
I don't know. They won't. There's no way my wife's gonna wait to watch the Golden Globes while I A, do a podcast, and then B, hold on, I gotta watch Hooper first. That's not going to happen. So Glenn Ford eventually collides into a chain link fence and rolls into a public park. At which point it looks like a lot of people who were playing soccer run to help, but one guy's got a bat in his arms, the way you would to intimidate somebody. I
was gonna say, are they angry at him for interrupting their game?
It's like, who did this? I'm going to teach him a lesson. Well, he's going to get taught a lesson because as soon as they get over there, they discover that the entire car is wrapped in a chain link fence and they can't get to him. And the gas tank is on fire. And just like a 1973 Pinto, it explodes.
And that's the end of Glenn Ford.
Yeah, goodbye. He's replaced by Shelley Winters singing Shortening Bread for 5 hours.
I love her in this. She's so good. She's just in a completely different movie.
Oh my God. This is when Barbara goes, "What do you think of Katie?" And she's like, she's the devil or devil. And she's like, come on. Like you've already talked about this. Every time John Huston uses the stairs in this movie, an angel gets a buzz cut.
Oh my God. Okay. Now we can talk about the ice skating scene because Where is
Well,
is this a shopping mall that
it
they're in?
it's some concrete monstrosity. I mean,
Because
I've never
he
seen
is
an uglier building outside of what they end up in at the end of the invitation.
he
It
is
is.
walking down the longest flight of stairs I've ever seen in my life. And
I
it's
mean, how they got him up there to begin with is a
they
mystery.
had to
And then
bring
they're
him up
like,
there with a
walk
crane.
down, 70-year-old John Huston. He's like, fuck. All right, fine.
So there's now again, and this may possibly be a sign of the times, that being 79, 80. This kid is 8 years old. She's just allowed to just roam around this city by herself.
At one
So
point, she runs across town when she senses her mom is getting an abortion.
she goes ice skating, and for whatever reason she gets into a skate off
Yeah,
with these
some sort
older
of skate fight.
with these older teenage boys that, like everything else in this movie, just goes on and on and on and on. And she's, for the most part, just kind of flinging them into the walls of the rink. And I'm like kind of holding for something pretty brutal to happen. I mean, one of the is I keep going back to Damien Omen 2, which this
Mhm.
movie reminded me a lot of, because again, there's a character in that gets her eyes pecked out by some sort of bird of prey,
Yeah.
to much more gruesome effect. But there is also a memorable scene in which a bunch of kids are playing ice hockey, and someone falls through the ice and gets stuck under the ice,
And you
like
see their face pounding on the
Yeah,
ice while
it's
everyone else is trying to get to them. It is
terrifying.
legitimately
Yeah,
scary as fuck.
I was waiting for that to happen, something like that to happen here. Although I understand that that's an ice skating rink; they don't have like
you
actual
can't. Well,
water.
the thing's
but-
5 inches deep.
would a movie like this, abide by logic? I mean, honestly, be that as it may, that doesn't happen. But it's like some sort of like Jets versus Sharks kind of, battle between these group of teenage boys and this quote unquote little girl, which again, she looks like she's like 12 or 13.
And she's the same size as half of that group of ice
So there's
toughs.
a point where they two of them grab her by her hands and they start spinning around.
Out of control.
It's like some sort of Looney Tunes thing, because she lets go of them and flings both of them through the window of a fun eatery.
The momentum of this 8-year-old spinning them around the center of the rink sends them off half a football field away, and they crash over the wall and slam into a restaurant like the Fury. And it's like, did they see the movie last Tuesday and Wednesday? Like, get me an ice rink. I've got an idea.
It's like, look that up. Look the birthday party scene up. I mean, I assume some of this could be found on YouTube, but it's just
It's best in highlight form. For sure.
and this is another one of those scenes where you could obviously tell that this was not the same actor playing this character. I'm inclined to think that they only used this child actor for like close-ups of her face, and it is particularly shameless during the end. We'll get to that, but okay,
but there's not. After all of this, I don't think there's anything more ludicrous in this film than John Huston showing up at Barbara's door and saying, "I'm the babysitter." You would not leave that house. I don't care how little you care for Katie. You're like, I don't think this 70-year-old bearded man dressed like a boat captain from the Jungle Cruise is this child's babysitter.
It was the 70s. Our parents were way more casual. We used to make our parents drinks, go to the 7-Eleven and buy them cigarettes. It was a looser, freer time.
It sure was.
And that's why most of us are on medication now.
At some point, Barbara is taken in for surgery, and we get the implication that because Lance Henriksen can't get her to agree to marry her, which I guess is the only way he'll be allowed to put his penis inside of her. I don't know.
It doesn't
it's very
make that
weird.
clear, because she like I assume when you're laying half naked with someone under a fur blanket, you probably have either already slept with them or intend to sleep with them. But
They give you the impression that they are fucking. So why do they need to marry in order to make a child? It doesn't make a lick of sense. Why the state of Georgia needs to certify that they're a couple in order for him to make a male child of Satan, a Satine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't do that copyright infringement.
That's right. I don't want to be sued by the United Baptist Church or whatever the fuck they were afraid of coming after them. So that happens at one point. Lance Henriksen visits and just the very grand house with the butler who is constantly peeping in on a scene from Network.
Never changes his expression once.
Not
even when he finds like this board of satanic board of directors. What is this? I mean, accurately played by a bunch of middle-aged businessmen. I will give it that this is
the one scene of realism in this entire movie.
This butler, by the end of the movie, they're somehow all killed. We don't see how or who
it's like the end of Godfather at the end of this, only it doesn't make any sense.
But he just kind of looks around like, well, I guess I'll be taking the rest of the day off, just completely unruffled.
Oh my God. It's at some point later in the movie, they're at the airport, and I don't know if they were dropping somebody off or they were picking somebody up. It's never explained, but Katie manages to disappear and then reappear. And she's like, oh, don't do that to me. Don't disappear on me. And they're driving home and their car fails. And Barbara
wait. You're burying the lead here.
Okay. Yeah.
They're driving.
Yes. It's never explained how Barbara drives for the remainder of this film.
A paraplegic and her 8-year-old daughter. They're the only
Neither of them wearing seatbelts.
They're the only people in the car. Barbara somehow. Now I realize that there are appliances that you can have. You can have a vehicle customized to allow a paraplegic to drive. That's not happening here. She is literally just 2 hands on the wheel. She's driving. I mean, that's the only way I can. This doesn't happen once. This happens at least twice.
Oh, all the time. Like it's played off like it's no big deal.
That this movie has, plays around with how paralyzed she actually is. Like
at one point, when she gets off of that wheelchair lifter, she uses her feet to hoist herself into the wheelchair.
And then so her car stalls out. She uses her car phone.
Yes.
Which is very obviously a desk phone just stuck on the seat next to her. She also picks up the line as someone's already there. And then it's like, what kind of car phone is this?
It's a direct line to somebody. She's independently wealthy. She lives in this crazy fucking house.
She's got like an arcade for the kid in the house.
Yes, it's nuts. This giant 3-color projector of Pong. That's its only purpose, is to project Pong on a wall.
She's driving. She's driving. I mean, I really, I just, it's one of those things. I'm always stunned when I see in a movie just such a blatant disregard for the audience's memory, logic. And again, I don't know. I feel like a lot of this, it was mostly came down to very, very bad editing. But on the other hand, when she is found later, the wheelchair is outside the car, which doesn't make any more sense than anything else in this scene. But
well, because she passes out, and John, like, there's this whole sequence where you think Katie is willing this giant semi to hit the car or something, or she's like, does it scare you, mommy? And she's like, no, it's a fucking truck. And the truck passes by, stops, and the back of it opens up, and all of a sudden giant bird aliens jump out of it at John Huston's request and hypnotize Barbara and then pick her up and take her into the back of the truck. And meanwhile, Katie, I can't tell if she's happy, mad, she doesn't know what's happening. Does she want something bad to happen to her mom, or does she not want something bad to happen to her mom? I can't tell.
Yeah, were those beings sent by John Huston? Because I thought that
He
they were,
wanders out of the truck and then all of a sudden it opens up.
but I thought that that's how she got pregnant.
She gets pregnant before with Dr. Satan when during the back surgery thing.
Wow,
Dr. Zatine.
I completely missed that. Wow,
I mean, the thing is, you could be right and I could be wrong. And guess what? It wouldn't fucking matter.
because I mentioned to you that I thought I mean, forgive me, listeners, for saying this, that I thought she got space raped. Like, I thought it was like one of those things where you know, these otherworldly beings. I didn't recognize John Huston. I thought he was just
He's either maybe he's not in charge of them. Maybe he's just watching it happen and doing fuck all about it.
Yeah, he lets a lot happen to this poor woman.
Oh, he does not care.
I will say, for you, if you are trying to decide whether or not you want to listen, you want to watch this movie, if you like seeing a disabled woman get smacked and kicked around, this movie has everything. This woman,
I mean, Dooley did pick a movie that did lean towards things that you have told the audience you enjoy before. You have a sick love of watching people in wheelchairs come to bad ends. And this, it happens over and over and over again. But Barbara is made of Teflon. Like, nothing can fucking damage her permanently.
She's dragged up a flight of stairs, knocked back down those flight of stairs for no reason. And
At one point, the bird attacks her in her own home. She hides in a bedroom, the darkest bedroom that's ever been. Like, inside of a black hole is her bedroom. And you can see the bird trying to get in. And then it stops.
The bird knows how to turn a door.
Of course, all birds know how to enter homes. They just choose not to. And it stops, and then the door opens, and it's revealed that it's Shelley Winters, and she has killed the bird. And she says, "Don't worry, Barbara. Nothing bad will happen to you anymore." At which point, Katie comes out of the shadows, grabs the wheelchair, and goes, "Come on, Bobby, it's a race!" and throws her into a glass waterfall. And no one mentions it again. It's almost as if it didn't happen. Because it might not have.
Well, no, because then we cut to a scene where it looks like Katie is hospitalized. We're like, oh, well, she's, we hear voiceover of some people, we have no idea who they are. But then they're like, oh, well, she's going to need intensive therapy. And it's like, okay, where is this happening? And when is this happening? Is she, did she get in trouble for flinging her mother in an aquarium? But then, like, the next scene, she's just back at the house again.
Well, because she can do anything she wants. This is right around the time that Barbara's visited by John Huston, who just walks into this house, and this scene is spied upon by Shelley Winters. But the movie is on the second level, and the camera just does whatever the fuck it wants. It goes up to the railing, it goes back, it moves to the left, it dollies to the right. They just you're watching coverage happen. And John Huston goes, "Hey, just so you know, you've been space raped." And she's like, "No!" And she starts doing donuts in her own wheelchair. And Shelley Winters is like, do I want to get involved in this? And she decides not to and just mournfully sings Shortening Bread one more time. Oh my God. Then Barbara goes to a hospital. We're seeing the entire drive of her nonsensically driving herself to this hospital. And she wheels herself into a very busy waiting room. She goes up to a nurse and says, "Is Dr. So-and-so in?" She's like, "Oh, of course he is, honey." And there's a billion people there. And she's like, "Make way, crippled white lady coming through."
And the doctor is her ex-husband,
who's played
Sam Peckinpah.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Sam Peckinpah's like, "Hey, I'll work on anything. All right. I will go anywhere and say any words. I'll do whatever you want. I have a house payment due 3 weeks ago. And like, sure, give this lady a space abortion after her space rape. So, yeah, and that's exactly what happens.
Well, he does that great trick of bad screenwriting where a character will say something and then another character will just kind of repeat back to them what they just said. It's like, I'm pregnant, so you're pregnant. I need an abortion, so you need an abortion.
And I want you to do it. You want me to do it? Meanwhile, Katie senses this after a confrontation with Shelley Winters, in which Shelley Winters full on smacks her across the face, not once, not twice, but thrice, saying, I know how to fucking deal with you. And she's like, where's my mama? Where's my whipping boy? And she goes, oh, I'll tell you. She went across town to the hospital, and Katie, her dog ears goes up, and she runs across town. No one ever goes, did you see that just little white girl run across the entire city? It's like it's a neighborhood. It's like this is the Andy Griffith show.
Why not just show her driving? I mean, you just showed a paraplegic woman driving. Why not an 8-year-old?
Because they only have one car. That's why. They only have one car with a phone in it. So she runs all the way across town, but before she can stop the removal of this unwanted child, John Huston decides, all right, I'm going to do something. And by something, I mean glower from a rooftop. And then so begins a foot chase. And well, Katie's running. John is walking about as fast as you might expect somebody who, recently had lower back surgery. He's humping along, one shoulder drooping below the other. And it's treated like the car chase in The French Connection. It's just and it just goes and goes and goes. At one point, John Huston hides inside a hot dog shack. I'm not fucking around. This isn't something like, is this one of your make-em-ups? No. He hides inside a hot dog shack, and Katie's like, aha, gotcha. And she focuses with her mind, and she makes a fire escape drop on top of the hot dog shack. And you're like, oh my God, that's it for poor John Huston. She finally nailed him. Cut to him across the street going, huh? What? Okay. I'm going to walk across the street now. Chasing over. That's it. Then, but wait, there's more, because John enters what is set up to be a movie theater. But once he gets inside, it appears to be some sort of theater that's putting on a staged rendition of The End of the Man with the Golden Gun.
I was actually thinking of Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon. Skyscraper did exactly the same thing very recently. I watched on an airplane, in which Katie searches around and starts smashing mirrors with her fists like the Hulk with pigtails. And he's like, I hate to break this to you, but whatever the fuck you think is going to happen ain't going to happen. Because none of the plot is explained as to why they're at odds. These are people who've had very calm conversations just mere minutes ago, are now hate one another. And Katie's like rage crashing all of these mirrors. And then the scene ends. It's like it never happened. Oh my God. Yeah. And then this is where my notes sort of run out, because I don't understand the sequence of events. Like Barbara reemerges almost no worse from being thrust through a fucking glass waterfall and comes back to the house. And there's Lance Henriksen lurking in the shadows. and somehow they knock her out and put her in that automatic wheelchair thing on the stairs, and they've tied a wire to her throat to kill her. How does this help them get a Zatine baby? How does this work?
Well, I mean, the thing about this this sequence is you could tell at this point that the child actor playing Katie was no longer available for whatever reason. So they decided to cast an adult actor, which often happens in movies in which a child is required to do something that will require adult strength. But they make the artistic decision to put the wig on her and have it hang in front of her face so she looks like Cousin It. And she stays like this the whole time. And
well, that's when her face doesn't light up like there's a semi truck inside.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't know what that was supposed to be. And then there's a scene later in which John Huston sets a bunch of birds free, a bunch of very obviously plastic birds, which is hilarious. Birds that wield switchblades out of their beaks, apparently. Who knew?
I don't know. I don't know what any of it means.
The birds are attacking Katie, and the noises that are coming out of this actor are not a child's noises. No. They're an adult woman making like, oh no, stop, help, no. it's like you couldn't even loop this kid's voice in later to you couldn't take 45 minutes to loop this kid saying, help, no, stop.
No, she's gotten Super Saiyan. Like, she's a different person at this point.
I mean, I guess that's the idea. I don't know. And it's just, I mean, the ending really just kind of, makes me think I didn't understand anything that happened for the previous hour and 40 minutes. But so, yeah, one of these birds slowly approaches in flight Lance Henriksen, which I've never seen a bird sort of come in slowly, but it's like
it's a glide.
He's like, coming in for a landing at LaGuardia. He's just like slowly, menacingly comes into Lance Henriksen, and then just like a knife or like a dagger or something just like pops out of his beak. And he just stabs Lance Henriksen in the throat, and that's it. He's done for.
Done for.
Yeah, and so it certainly looks like Katie has been burned to death at the end, but no, at the end she is brought to Franco Nero's summer camp for bald pale children, and her head is shaved. And the interesting thing is, I was looking at pictures of these kids. These kids actually look like their heads were shaved. And I'm like, okay, how much did you have to pay these parents to let them have their kids' heads shaved, to be sitting in the background of an Italian sci-fi horror film? Not even a line of dialogue, nothing. This was like extra scale. But like I said, none of these kids look like they were wearing bald caps. I mean,
no, they're all shaved.
I mean, Franco Nero's got enough hair. He looks like Roger Daltrey. He's just like he's just got flowing blonde locks everywhere, and surrounded by a bunch of little tiny Uncle Festers, and John Huston's like, well, look, she's all right now, and she just smiles, and it's like,
yep.
Okay, so she was just possessed, because you made it sound like she was born like this, and. Anyway, that's The Visitor, everyone.
all her powers reside in her 3 pigtails. And once that's been shaved off, she's fine to live the rest of her life at Franco Nero's school for kids who don't grow hair good and want to do other things good.
Honest to God, this is as coherent as we could describe this movie.
I mean, that is the movie.
We described you to the whole movie from beginning to end.
We got you from point A to point B.
I don't think we missed anything.
No, I mean, we missed everything. There's so many crazy ass details in this movie, but you would just go you would have to go minute by minute to make sense of any of them, and I don't think any of them add up to anything. It's just Italian nonsense from the word go until it's finally over 140 fucking minutes. It's exhausting. I had to watch portions of it twice just because I'm like, am I missing something? And the answer is yes and no at the same time.
Somehow I understand nothing, and yet I understand everything.
I've been presented with all the evidence, but is it movie? Is it blanket? You can't tell. I mean, this makes watching City of the Living Dead feel like, oh, this is an Orson Welles film, because none of it makes a lick of goddamn sense, and they don't care.
It's not even one of those things where it's like, oh, well, it was, it was in Italian and that is badly translated. No, these are mostly American actors, maybe writing a script that had been written in Italian, and they, just put through, whatever was the 1979 version of Google Translate, and they just kind of read the dialogue. But I mean, this was, it was an Italian production company, but everything's in English. Nothing was dubbed. Nothing was it's just I can't even say it was a number of interesting ideas kind of glommed together. It was a lot of well, Satan is real big with the kids right now. Space is real big with the kids right now. Why don't we try Space Satan? Dun, dun, dun.
Like, if this will only work if we make it more unnecessarily involved. And then I don't, oh my God, that's The Visitor. Oh my God.
Megan, we hope that was worth your $10.
I hope this was worth it to hear us, verbally shrug for an hour plus.
I didn't. I'm not sorry she recommended this. It was an interesting viewing experience. Although I do not buy anybody trying to claim this is some sort of lost gem. It's like, no, it's absolutely incoherent in every possible way.
It's crazy that you've never heard of before. When Alamo Drafthouse put out this trailer, it was just after Miami Connection had been distributed by them. And Miami Connection is, it was this lost slice of crazy time that you could never recreate. You can't make a comedy as funny as Miami Connection, because Miami Connection is unaware that it's a comedy. And this, I saw, I'm like, oh, well, this is so many elements of terribleness that I love. This is going to be great. And it is great in a sense, in fits and spurts, because it is nuts, but it's surrounded by a lot of John Huston awkwardly walking places, which it does not elevate the material very much.
Oh,
it's
yeah, that shot of where, like I said, for someone who is supposed to be sort of well, I guess obviously Franco Nero was supposed to be kind of the Christ figure, I guess, and space Jesus. Was John Huston, I guess, supposed to be some sort of guardian angel or something?
Yeah, I guess he's the lead angel. He's an archangel of some kind.
There are many opportunities where he could stop people from getting hurt, and he doesn't. Like this scene, that scene in the ice skating rink. I mean, you can see. I mean, he has to be, if he can call birds from the heavens to attack people. He should have other superpowers that he can do, but he just with Barbara the mother, he just keeps letting stuff happen to her. I guess his attitude is, well, I'm not your guardian angel.
Listen, my job, it's twofold, is to take this one Zatine infected kid back up to the Space Conference Center and make sure you don't make another one. And anything else that happens, my name is Paul. This is between y'all.
He could not be walking more indifferently down these stairs on this ice skating scene. He's like, oh, Christ, here we go. Jesus.
It's just like, just let me know when the camera's on and I'll start walking up and down stairs. Oh, you need me to stare at nothingness like I don't know what's going on? Guess what? I'm in the moment. I don't know what's going on.
It's like he and Glenn Ford just have a befuddle off. It's just like, I don't know which one of them, less understood what they were doing there.
Oh my God. That is a crazy fucking movie. And that's The Visitor.
That's The Visitor.
Thank you, everyone. All of our patrons who donate enough to hear this every month. If you would like to be like Megan Dooley and make us suffer through something like The Visitor, there's one way to do it. That's to become a $10 level Patreon, and we put your name in a hat and we yank it out. And you have to come up with something The Visitor level good. So you know where the bar is set. Any lower, you'd have to push Satan out of the way to get past it.
Luckily, we have a couple of months to recover from that before that comes around again.
I don't even know what we would do after this that would ever confound me the way this particular film has.
I am born anew.
I've come out the other side. Let's watch Hooper. Anyways, that'll do it for this edition of our Patreon bonus episode. But we'll see you here next month. So for myself and Virginia, bye-bye, everybody.
I am a pretty bird.
Pretty bird.